Imagine opening your brokerage account and seeing a dividend yield of 10%. Your first reaction might be, "This is it. My money is finally paying me." Cash is landing in the account, the yield looks high, the plan feels safer than waiting for stock prices to go up. But that feeling can become the mistake, because the dividend can look safe at the exact moment the portfolio is quietly taking more risk than you realize. By the end of this video, you will know how to judge dividend income without confusing a visible payout with a complete wealth plan. Welcome to Grow with Tony, simple money lessons for education only, not financial advice. Let me start with the part dividend investors are right about. Income feels good. If you have ever opened an account and seen cash arrive without selling anything, you understand the appeal immediately. It feels calmer than watching a price chart. It feels more real than unrealized gains. And for a lot of people, it feels more responsible than hoping a stock or fund goes up someday. That feeling is not silly. In fact, this is why dividend content is so powerful. A title that says, "Here is how much you need for monthly income," speaks to a very human desire. Make the portfolio feel like a paycheck. And honestly, I get it. If someone gives you two choices, one portfolio that says, "Trust me, maybe it grows," and another portfolio that sends cash to your account, most normal people will emotionally prefer the second one. The cash feels like progress. It gives your brain something to hold. But here is where Tony wants you to slow down. Your brain loves visible income. Your portfolio only cares about the whole result. Those are not always the same thing. A dividend is one way an investment can return money to you. A company may earn income and send part of that income to shareholders. An ETF can also distribute dividends or capital gains, and its market price can rise or fall. So income is real. Dividends are not imaginary. But a dividend payment is not magic money. It comes from somewhere. And once you understand that, the question changes. The beginner question is, how much does it pay? The better question is, what is happening to the investment that creates that payment? That one question can save investors from a lot of expensive comfort. Let's use simple numbers. Suppose an investment trades at $10 and pays $1 per year in dividends. That is a 10% yield. On the screen, it looks beautiful. Now imagine the price falls from $10 to $5, while the dividend has not changed yet. The same $1 dividend now shows up as a 20% yield. The yield doubled, but your investment did not become twice as safe. The higher yield may simply be the result of a lower price. That is the part dividend chasing often hides. A high yield can look like a shortcut, but yield is not a safety score. Sometimes a high yield exists because the investment is designed to pay more income. But sometimes it exists because the market is worried. The price has fallen. The payout may be questioned. The business may be weaker. The fund may own assets with more risk, or investors may be demanding a higher payout because they are uncomfortable with the underlying situation. So when someone says, "This pays more," Tony's first question is not, "How do we get it?" Tony's first question is, "Why does it pay more?" That is a very different mindset. And if you are looking at an individual company, one useful checkpoint is the payout ratio. The payout ratio asks a simple question. How much of the company's earnings are being paid out as dividends? If a company earns $100 million and pays $40 million in dividends, the payout ratio is 40%. That does not automatically make it a good investment, but at least the dividend is being compared with the earnings that may support it. Now imagine a company is paying out more in dividends than it earns. That does not automatically mean disaster tomorrow. Some businesses have temporary reasons. Some industries need different measurements. And funds do not work exactly like individual companies. But for an ordinary dividend stock, that should make you pause. Because now the question is no longer, how high is the yield? The question is, can the thing paying me actually support the payment? That is why payout ratio is not a magic answer. It is a smoke alarm. It tells you, do not just admire the cash. Check the engine. Because if the answer is, it pays more because the risk is higher, then the income is not free. It is compensation for taking a trade-off. And trade-offs are not bad. The problem is when investors accept a trade-off without noticing it. This is why the dividend income mistake can be so dangerous. It does not usually feel reckless. It feels responsible. You are not chasing a meme stock. You are not gambling on a random coin. You are looking for income, cash flow, maybe something that sounds mature and adult. That is why the mistake slips past your defenses. It wears a suit. The mistake says, I am not speculating. I am investing for income. But if the portfolio is concentrated, if the payout changes, if the price keeps falling, if taxes surprise you, or if the income makes you ignore total return, then the feeling of responsibility becomes the disguise. Now let's make the scoreboard clearer. Imagine you invest $100,000 into an income investment yielding 8%. For 5 years, you collect $8,000 a year. That is $40,000 in cash. Emotionally, that feels like winning. You can point to the money. You can say, look, my portfolio paid me. But now imagine that over the same 5 years, the investment price falls by 50%. Your $100,000 of market value is now $50,000. So what do you actually have? You have $50,000 of investment value plus $40,000 of cash received. That is $90,000 before even thinking about taxes or fees. You did not really make $40,000. You lost $10,000 on the total picture. This is the dividend illusion. The cash flow felt like profit, but part of it may have been covering up damage somewhere else. And this is not an argument that all dividend investing is bad. It is an argument that cash flow is not the same thing as wealth. So here is the line I want you to remember. The dividend is not the plan. It is only one output of the plan. Before that line, you ask, how much cash can I collect? After that line, you ask, what system is producing that cash, and can that system survive? That is the real episode. Not dividends are bad. Not income investors are wrong. Not total return investors are smarter. The real lesson is that income must be judged by the system behind it. Let's make that practical with 3 mistakes. Mistake 1, starting with the income target before the risk target. This usually sounds like, how much do I need invested to make $1,000 a month? That can be a useful math question, but it can also lead you into the wrong store. Because once you start with the monthly income number, your brain begins searching for the yield that makes the math easy. If a lower yield requires too much capital, the higher yield starts looking attractive. If the higher yield makes the dream number work, it feels like the problem is solved. But the question, how much do I need, is incomplete. You also need to ask, how much risk am I accepting to get that payout? What happens if the payout changes? What happens if the investment price falls while I am collecting income? What happens if I need to sell during a bad period? The income number is the fun part. The survival questions are the plan. Mistake 2, confusing yield with diversification. A portfolio can pay income and still be fragile. You can own several dividend stocks and still be concentrated in the same type of company. You can own several funds and still have overlapping holdings. You can own income assets that all struggle in the same economic environment. From the outside, it looks diversified because there are many names. But the better question is not, how many things do I own? The better question is, do these things fail in the same way? That is where dividend portfolios can surprise beginners. If every holding was chosen because it pays income today, you may accidentally build a portfolio around one preference: visible cash flow. That preference can crowd out other jobs your portfolio needs. Growth, stability, inflation protection, liquidity, flexibility, tax awareness. A good portfolio is not just a machine that sends money, it is a system that has to survive different seasons. Mistake 3, treating cash flow as if it avoids decisions. This one is subtle. A lot of investors prefer dividends because selling shares feels scary. Selling feels like shrinking the portfolio. A dividend feels like harvesting fruit without cutting the tree. That analogy is popular because it feels comforting. But the real world is messier. Sometimes the tree grows. Sometimes it struggles. Sometimes the fruit changes. Sometimes the orchard needs maintenance. Sometimes you received fruit, but the value of the tree fell by more than the fruit was worth. I am not saying selling shares is always better. I am saying dividends do not remove the need for judgment. You still need to decide what role the investment plays. You still need to know whether the income is sustainable. You still need to understand taxes in your situation. You still need to know whether fees are eating more of the return than you realize. and you still need a rule for what you will do if the payout changes. Because that is when the emotional test begins. It is easy to say I am a long-term income investor when the payments arrive and the price is stable. It is harder when the price is down, the payout is questioned, and another investment suddenly promises a higher yield. That is when people start jumping from one income idea to the next. And now the portfolio is not a plan. It is a search for comfort. So what should you do instead? Use a 3-sentence audit. Not a complicated spreadsheet, not a prediction, just 3 sentences that force you to explain the plan clearly. Sentence 1. I own this because, if the answer is only, because it pays a high dividend, that is not enough. A stronger answer sounds like, I own this because it gives me exposure to this type of company, this type of fund, or this role in my portfolio, and the income is one part of that role. That sentence makes you name the job. Income is not a job by itself. It is an output. The job might be broad stock exposure, dividend growth, lower volatility, defensive income, retirement cash flow, or something else. But if you cannot name the job without mentioning the yield, you may be chasing the payout instead of building the plan. Sentence 2. The risk I accept is, this is where many dividend plans get honest. Maybe the risk is concentration. Maybe the risk is slower growth. Maybe the risk is that the payout can change. Maybe the risk is that the investment becomes less attractive after taxes. Maybe the risk is that you love the income so much that you ignore price decline. None of those automatically means the investment is wrong, but if you cannot say the risk out loud, you probably have not accepted it. You have only hidden it behind income. Sentence 3. The plan still works if. This is the strongest sentence. The plan still works if the payout is lower. The plan still works if the price falls. The plan still works if another fund is suddenly more popular. The plan still works if I do not get the exact income I wanted this year. If the plan only works when the dividend stays high, the price behaves, taxes are painless, and you never panic, that is not a plan. That is a best-case scenario, and best-case scenarios are not bad. They are just not enough. A real dividend strategy needs a bad day version. This is where I think dividend investors can become much stronger than the stereotype. The internet often turns this into a fight. Dividend investors say, I want cash flow. Growth investors say, only total return matters. Then everyone argues as if one side has to be stupid. But a better investor can hold 2 ideas at once. Cash flow can be useful. Total outcome still matters. That is the mature version. You can like dividends without worshiping yield. You can use income without ignoring price. You can build for cash flow without pretending the cash flow is guaranteed. And you can care about total return without acting like investor psychology does not matter. Because psychology matters a lot. For some people, regular income helps them stay invested. It gives them emotional stability. It makes the portfolio feel less abstract. That has value, but emotional value should not be confused with financial safety. A strategy can feel calming and still carry risk. A strategy can pay income and still underperform. A strategy can look responsible and still be built on the wrong scoreboard. So when you see a dividend title, a dividend fund, or a high-yield opportunity, do not start by asking whether it is good or bad. Start by asking 4 cleaner questions. Where is the cash coming from? What happened to the price? What risk am I accepting? What is the job of this investment inside the whole portfolio? Those questions change the conversation. Now you are not just an income chaser. You are a portfolio builder, and that is the difference. The goal is not to hate dividends. The goal is to stop letting dividends do more emotional work than they should. If the dividend fits the plan, great. If the dividend is the only reason you like the plan, slow down. Because the safest-looking income can become expensive when it makes you stop asking the hard questions. The simple rule is this: do not judge dividend income by the cash it sends you. Judge it by the portfolio behavior it creates. If it helps you stay disciplined, keeps you diversified, fits your taxes and time horizon, and survives a lower payout, it may have a role. If it makes you chase yield, ignore price decline, concentrate your risk, or confuse cash flow with wealth, it is not safety. It is comfort. And comfort is useful only when it is attached to a real plan. If you want, leave a comment with this sentence: I like dividends because that one sentence will tell you a lot about whether you are building a plan or chasing a feeling. And if this helped you think more clearly about your money, subscribe to Grow with Tony. Keep learning, keep growing your wealth, and I will see you in the next one.